morning, Miss Shaba. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's so good to see you here.
I know it's been a while.
Yes, it has. It has. Okay, so this is our pre-conference
Yes.
meeting, and you have your observation coming up.
Yes.
How are you? How are you? How's your year been? Like, how you been doing?
We've been okay. We've been good. I know with the new curriculum, it's been kind of,
Mhm.
rough at times, but I think we're coming along. We're understanding and we're getting the hang of it. Um, and we're doing the best we can.
Very good, very good. Awesome, awesome. And at the end of the meeting, we can talk about any needs that you and your department may have. All right. So, um, tell me a little bit about what I might be seeing when I come into your classroom tomorrow. I'd love to know the objectives and any of the else that you're going to be teaching as well, so that I will be able to kind of picture, what things will be looking like.
Yes. The lesson that we'll be covering is we'll be having students graph equations and they'll be graphing them in different forms. So they'll have questions and the equations will be there in slope-intercept form, which they are or should have that as a prerequisite from eighth grade. We are going to I'll show them how to do a point slope form, which is new to them here in Algebra 1. And then we probably will not get into the standard form tomorrow. But that's what they'll be doing. They'll be looking at the three different ways of writing an equation, and then they will use that equation to be able to graph with and without technology. Of course, we'll to help the students when discussing with their classmates, with their peers. So we'll be focusing on them speaking, using the academic vocabulary, and then whenever they do have a word problem, because we might see some here and there, they are to use the context around to help them be able to write their equations, from definitions from previous words within their word problem.
Okay, talk to me about the word problems because I know that we had discussed a while back of how some of them struggle just a little bit with the comprehending of it. It wasn't all it. I think it wasn't even just the actual problems, but it was just the that comprehension. Are they improving on that, or is it still the same?
So I know within this class, there's about 15 EB students. So what I do like to kind of do as the bell ringer refresher is have them do a chart. And on the chart, we'll write down, okay, if you see this word, does this word tell you to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? And that's going to help them when they're reading the problem, look for those key words to help them set up the actual equation, which is what they're aiming for, right? So we will be doing that as a refresher. We've done it before, kind of to get them, in the habit of, okay, anytime I see a word problem, I have to look for these keywords. And we've been building on since the beginning of the school year. So by now, most of them, already know what to look for, but we still have a few that, struggle. We do have about seven special ed students in the class as well. So doing that refresher of, okay, let's write our chart of keywords helps them as well.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And what do you expect the students to know and to be able to do after your lesson? And how will you assess whether the students have learned what attend say that they're going to know how to do?
So they should already know how, right? From eighth grade, they've learned how to identify slope and y-intercept from their slope-intercept equations. So they've seen those already. They've graphed those already last year. They did that for maybe 6 weeks. So they should have some kind of knowledge from that. They should know how to plot points because they've been plotting points since sixth grade. But again, we always run into those misconceptions of mixing the slope and the y-intercept from an equation. Or they see the number it's positive. I don't know why they want to switch it to a negative. So we see those misconceptions. But all of that should have been prior knowledge. Now, to make sure that they are understanding or they did understand the lesson, they will have an opportunity to be working on problems throughout the lesson. We'll do some together. They'll do some with their partners, and while they're working with their partners, I will be walking around to be hearing the discussions that they're having, to clarify any misconceptions of no, you are choosing the y-intercept when that's actually your slope. Have that one-on-one conversation with the students so that hopefully, it clears out those misconceptions to ensure that they did understand fully the lesson for today.
Okay, so are there going to be any particular grouping structures in place? If so, how will you the hold students accountable? I think I kind of feel like you that real-time feedback that you just mentioned might be part of this answer here.
Yeah, so they'll be paired up. I have purposely paired them up. They've been with me for a while now, so I kind of know their strengths and their weakness. So I've been pairing them up. I don't want to put two students that are really good at graphing together because I can split those up and they can work with someone else that needs the help. Or I'm not going to put, two of my lowest kids together because then they're going to be struggling and not be able to advance. So I've taken the time to actually look and pair up each student so that they can learn from one another. So that will be happening to make sure that they're being held accountable. That's why I kept it at just a pair so that, it minimizes the distractions, minimizes the off task. And as they're working, like I said, I'll be walking around to be able to provide that one-on-one support to the pairs if they were to run into any problems.
Okay, that sounds good. Um, are there any specific aspects? Um, I'm sorry, I may have asked this one before. Okay, so here's a question. What might um this lesson challenges um for some what might be this lesson's challenge for some of your students and specifically that you may kind of like misconceptions or anything that you think that they may be like barriers to prevent them from doing this lesson.
I think one of the biggest problems or issues that we might run into is some students still don't know how to plot points. So
Hmm.
they don't know which one is their X. They don't know which
Hmm.
one is their Y. They don't know if to go up or down, left or right. And that's key because
Hmm.
they have to be able to pinpoint a point, whether it is with technology or without technology. They need to be able to know how to plot it on their paper or on the Chromebook, because that's the way it is on the STAR exam. They have to actually plot the point. If not, they will never get a line to show up. So that's a struggle. We've been plotting points as a refresher since school started, and there's still some students that, they still struggle. I've noticed it in this particular class. It is more of the special education students. So we're going to see how it goes through, with the lesson tomorrow. And if needed, we might have to, work with the inclusion teacher to maybe have some kind of pull out during our enrichment period, to focus more one-on-one on, okay, this is the point,
Hmm.
more in detailed in depth, okay, what each number really means, which way to move. And they do have supplemental aids, right? But it's also a constant battle of like, hey, remember you have it, use it. There's nothing wrong with using it. But that's probably the most difficult part of this. If they can't plot a point, then they're not going to be able to draw a line.
Okay. All right, very good. And the last question for your pre-conference, is there anything in particular you want me to be observing with regard to your areas of reinforcement and refinement?
Um, I think maybe the wait time. I, you know, we love to ask questions and then it's like, oh, crickets. Okay, so the answer is right. And I think that's something I could definitely, work on. Even if you're in the back and kind of like, hey, calm, like, okay. Um,
Yeah.
I try to pace around the classroom to
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
distract me so that
Yes.
I don't, blurt out the answer. But maybe that practice and get more feedback on was my wait time appropriate or not.
Okay, then. All right, that sounds good. Anything else you want to add before we close up this pre-conference?
No, I'm looking forward to this observation, getting your feedback, so I can see, what's working, what needs improvement, and to work on that.
All right, well, Ms. Chapa, you are amazing. I love coming into your classroom, and I look forward to our observation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Post. All right. Hi, Ms. Chapa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. You're amazing. I mean, your lesson was amazing. I'm sorry. Your lesson was absolutely amazing. The students were they were doing what they were supposed to do. You had participation. And the only one thing that I saw that I saw you saw as well, and you quickly redirected that student and got him back on track. So how you feel? How you feeling right now about it? The lesson.
Um, I think it went good considering, everything that could have gone wrong. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I think the students overall did good.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first day of the lesson. Half of the lesson, it's something brand new to them.
Yeah.
So for it being the first time they see it, the first time they've been exposed to it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was pretty good. It worked out. The students seemed to be following along, and of course, there's always space for improvement, but I think overall they did pretty good.
Okay, very good. I do too. I mean, I could see that some, did kind of like scratch their heads a little bit. I mean, but that's natural. I feel like you taught certain things a couple of different ways. So, to ensure that your students did pick up on it, those who, had that look on their face, I feel like you saw that and you addressed that, especially when you were walking around doing your rounds. As they were doing their independent work, I saw you kind of like kneel down and speak to a few students, kind of like redirect them in real time. So we had talked about that in the pre-conference. I actually
Mhm.
saw that during the observation. So that always makes me happy because it's nothing like that real time feedback. So they know that because to wait and then come back later, they've probably forgotten the lesson. So good jobs, kudos on that. Um, so as you were walking around doing your monitoring, which students do you feel like demonstrated mastery, and which students may need that, additional support? Like, what was your ratio on that?
Um, There were still a couple of our special ed students that were struggling with the plotting points, which was a conversation we had in the pre-conference. It was expected to have and see that problem. Um, they were allowed to use technology, and again, even with the technology, we did see that they don't know which way to move, up, down, left, right. They don't know, so that really did hurt them. They were plotting points and connecting them, and it was like, no, sweetie, but look at how it looks on the technology. Look how it looks on the calculator. So that kind of also helped them, like, oh, okay, I went the wrong way here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, right. So them were the ones that still kind of need a little more help. There was a couple other students that I think I addressed while I was doing, walking around that had the slope and the y-intercept flipped, which, it's a common mistake and it's an easy fix if it's caught early on, which I think it was in this lesson. But for the most part, I want to say that most students did show the mastery.
Hmm. Okay, very good. Very good. I noticed students were working in pairs. How
Yes.
effective was that grouping strategy in promoting your student learning?
Um, I think for the most part, most pairs were pretty good. They were paired up pretty well. They did seem to help one another. I am gonna have to probably make some changes with a couple of pairs because I didn't get the response I was hoping. They were just, oh, you do you, I do me. They
Yeah.
weren't really collaborating with one another.
Hmm.
So that's, either a discussion to have with them, like, hey, y'all are paired up for a reason, like help each other out, you're there for one another. Or if that's not gonna do the trick, then, I might have to switch partners around so that hopefully they can all experience working with the partner that's willing to collaborate with them.
Okay. Okay. And I think you just spoke a little bit about the evidence that you observed as far as engagement and that mathematical discourse. So I'm not even going to ask that question. So let's talk about wait time. So before the observation, you identified wait time as an area you wanted to feedback on. How
Yes.
do you think? How do you think that you did on that?
I want to say I did better
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
my wait time.
Yeah, I agree.
I took advantage of walking around to kind of force myself to wait.
Yes.
Um, but I don't know how you felt I did overall on that.
No, I specifically honed in on that, and I think that you were hyper aware of it because there were times where you asked a question and there was silence for a moment, and you waited patiently. And it just takes a while for them to kind of like for their little brains to start going. And so, but you did not take that away from them. So kudos on that. I will also recommend that when you are, if you feel like the concept that you are teaching may be a bit of a struggle, go ahead and have them turn and talk to a classmate before they answer the question. That way, maybe that can help them, think of some things to say before they have to go whole group, or even if you want them to kind of like jot down what you think. Like, hey, I'll give you like about a minute to write down, ask the question. I'll give you a minute to write down what you're thinking and put the timer on, let them kind of relax and try to think. And then you can go back to whole group or let them write and then turn and talk and then go back to whole. That's even better because the more they do
Mhm.
that, have that discourse and those discussions, the more comfortable they feel, with the answers. So, but I think that you did amazing with that. No problem with that at all. Um, Were there moments when giving students additional wait time resulted in a stronger response from your point of view?
Yes, I think so.
Mhm,
Um, but of course, I do agree on the, I hadn't thought about the suggestion you just made. Have them turn around, talk, okay, write it down. Okay, now let's all come back together, because what if they had no idea of anything? Or if they turned and talked to other people, maybe they picked on something and then, okay, well, I can put whatever I heard all together and then, okay, well, I can say something. So I think trying that out, that kind
mhm,
of
mhm.
discussion and wait time and thinking, um, will most definitely increase, the responses to have something stronger said.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about assessment and the feedback. How did I know you had an exit ticket. I did not stay. I left shortly after that, so I didn't really. But how did you monitor students' understanding throughout that lesson before the exit ticket? And like I said, we kind of talked about this, but I just wanted to just like solidify that answer right quick for my notes.
Yes, so we did questions together as a whole group.
Hmm.
Then they did questions with their partners, so that was like their independent work. And
Hmm.
while they were doing that, I was walking around to see if there was any misunderstandings, clarifications that they might need. So I went ahead and I did that. And then they did have an exit ticket at the end as well, where they actually had to graph an equation that was given to them in slope-intercept form and graph an equation that was given to them in point slope along with identifying the slope and the y-intercept. So each one of them had a different question. So even though they were in pairs, already had a different question. Um, and that kind of helps me, okay, really pinpoint if every single student was able to understand or not. I did go back and I reviewed those exit tickets to kind of get a feel for, okay, is there a misunderstanding in the whole group? Is it a special population that's having those misconceptions? Um, you know, and see, okay, do I need to do a full-blown review again before moving on? Or, we can just throw in a question here and there on random days to just kind of, reinforce. Um, so that's how I monitored my students as they were working.
Awesome, awesome. Oh, and the last question is, how can I support you in strengthening your instructional practice?
I guess help with higher order questions. Sometimes we try to stick to just like the very basic,
Hmm.
very on the surface questions.
Yeah.
So most definitely that moving towards a higher order questions because either sometimes we're way at the bottom or we're way above their heads. So kind of slowly moving towards higher order questions. That would be probably something I could really use the help in.
Okay. I was in Miss Ellis's class earlier this week, and she was really nailing those higher order uh, questions for her students. And I could tell that that is something that she had been doing because her students were able to populate, generate those answers. So I think I'm going to probably get you guys together so that you can
Mhm.
start planning. That way you'll have those questions before those lessons and you'll be able to embed those.
Sounds good. Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Ms. Chapel, for your time. And it's just been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be in your classroom.
Hello, Miss Davis. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Ms. Chapel. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a while. I'm glad we're able to, meet once again. It's always a pleasure to be able to work with you. I know we do have your conference, your observation plan for later this week. So I just want to go ahead and, go over some of these pre-conference questions, kind of get a feel of what is it that I'm going to be seeing in your classroom the day of the observation, see if there's anything I can help you with before the day, anything you want me to, look at to provide feedback. Feel comfortable.
Okay.
Go ahead and,
This is first grade, my little babies.
oh,
So when you observe, it's going to be a huge deal. So we're going to be doing something new. We are going to be learning the sound as in city, right?
okay.
So we've been doing pretty well with the S sound as in normal words, but just be prepared just in case this might actually blow their minds that the letter C can also say S. So we will be doing that and we'll be doing some writing. Um, and we're going to be reading a little bitty book. It's called In the Cave. And that book will also have that little S as in city sound throughout the book. And the last thing we're going to be doing is spelling. They're going to have, 3, 4 words that they have to spell. So it's like little bitty simple words that they have to spell just to check for comprehension. So when you come in there, that's about what you're going to see us doing.
Oh, how nice.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure some students are going to be like, what? What do
Yeah,
you
it's
mean?
it's gonna be it's gonna be a whole deal. You'll see. Like when we do a new lesson, it's always like, what? No. And they have this whole argument with each other, and they're sitting on the floor, and this conversation about, how can this be so? And it's all it's just, so just know all new lessons are like that, and this one is going to be even bigger because of that. They're used to the S sound making this and not the C, because for them the C says as in cat. So just
Yes.
so yeah, just expect to see that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting lesson. This is my first block that you'll see, and they are very, very lively and engaging and full of questions and curiosity. So much so that a lot of times I have to, all right, guys, let's get back, so because it's a pretty big class.
Okay, sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. Seeing those little kids and seeing how their mind get their
Oh,
eyes,
I
like
forgot
some
to
of them, their
record,
eyes are
and I
like,
record.
some of them, I don't know. It's really nice to see little kids
Hmm.
learn something new,
Hmm. Yeah.
Some of them take it good, some of them don't, but at
Yes.
the end of the day, it's
Mhm.
nice.
'Cause
And
this is
it's
the
really
child,
gonna
so I've
help
taught
them.
like middle school before, so I toggle
Mhm.
sometimes, between elementary and middle school. So yeah, they are a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I can imagine. And of course, you're still helping them build, that toolbox that they're going to need to be able to continue reading, to continue comprehending,
Mhm.
as they get older. So,
Yes,
this
ma'am.
lesson that you're going to do is key to help them, expand their vocabulary and expand their reading.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
props to you on that.
Thank you.
Um, are there any prerequisite skills that the students need to be able to be successful with this lesson?
Absolutely. To be successful with this lesson, because I mean, these are first graders. Keep in mind, we're talking 5, 6 years old.
Mhm.
Well, mostly 6, but they're going to need to know um, the alphabets, how to
Mhm.
recognize the alphabet, especially the S and the C. And they're going to have to know the basic foundational sounds that both the S and the C makes so that they can differentiate when I actually give them these words with the different S's in it. Because what you'll see is us reviewing at first. So, like, I'll review a word where the S comes at the beginning of the sentence, and then I'll review a word where the S comes at the end, not the sentence, the word. And then we'll talk about the different sounds and the locations of where the S is located in the words. And then I'll review the C. So they have to know what the original, that hard of the C sounds, because I'm setting them up to confirm, yes, S looks like this and it says this when it's at the beginning of the word, when it's at the end of the word. Yes, C looks like this, when it's in the like, wherever it's located in the word. And then I'm going to introduce the C as in city. So they definitely have to know that foundational, the alphabetical, what they look like and what they sound like, and um, they have to be able to distinguish where it is in the word. So we do a little, you'll see me do the little game where like here's like I'll hold up like the S and it's a sun and it's a sit, right?
Hmm.
And so they'll have to, and I won't even show them first. I'll just say sun and then I'll ask them where do they hear the s sound. And then like I have another board where I have like where it's like kiss and dress, and I may say that, and I say where do you hear the s sound? So we're trying to figure out the location, and so they definitely need to know those sounds and what those letters look like before I give them the that new lesson.
All right, perfect. You kind of went and showed me, your little clipboards, but how do you plan to support students, that are struggling or your English learners, students?
So, well, this actually benefits everyone, but when I create this, I am thinking towards my language learners.
Okay.
And we have songs, dancing, we're up, and I have created something that they can touch like manipulatives. For instance, we have this little tree, and the tree has these branches, and on the branch, you're going to see a lot of different, like on one branch, you'll see SS, where S says like KISS, the SS at the end. So that says the sound. And then on another branch, you'll see like just an S where you just have like sit and sun. It's just this has like that sound. And then you'll see I'm going to create a new branch with the letter C because that's going to be for our words with the sound, like in pencil and scent and cell. So I feel like that helps my language learners because not only are you saying the sound,
Mhm.
also I have them to write, like they'll write the C that makes the sound in their hands, and I'll have them write it in the sky, and I'll have them like write it on the floor. And so that really helps my language learners embed it in their heads, that sound. And then I'll give them the little leaves with the words on it, with the S words on it, and they'll have to figure out, does this word go on this branch, or this branch, based on what Miss Davis has taught me. And so I feel like that really like just kind of like it helps them move. They're singing, they're dancing, and and a lot of times, well, every day we talk in turn. So they have that discourse with each other to see, and if they fall short, I pair them in a way to where they're peers, they were the strong peer. And so they just kind of learn off each other. They're constantly talking and singing, dancing, moving. So I think that's gonna help my language learners.
Awesome. I really like that. How they're, like you said, they're 6 years old, they still don't have that long attention span. So you having them, okay, let's sing, now let's dance. And like you said, you with your tree, having them physically go up and place the leaves on the different branches, the kids are not just stationary. So that helps as well because they're kind of see, oh, this is something new every single time. In reality, it's the same thing. They're still tying it in all together, but their little minds, don't get bored on, she just has us here sitting down or whatever, right?
Never,
So I love
never will
that. I
they sit
love
down. They
it.
won't, even if I try to make them, they wouldn't sit down. So I have to make sure that it's an organized
Yes.
situation with us while we're doing that.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I want to see it firsthand how they go and, switching from your songs to your dances to going up to the leaves and the branches, all of that takes a lot of planning, a lot
Yes,
of
yes,
time.
ma'am.
And you've got to be real organized, have real good classroom management to be able to move, our 6-year-olds from one thing to the other. I've been in your classroom before. I've seen nothing but the best.
Thank
So
you.
it's amazing. That goes a long way to show, what great of a teacher you are. Um, are there any misconceptions that you can anticipate that your students might have with this lesson?
Yeah, I think the major misconception will definitely be that they're stuck with the C, making the hard C sound.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a mind shift that we're going to have to do. And this one, usually when I do this lesson, oh, it takes a while to cement it in their head, because they want to default back to the old C sound.
Hmm.
Well, not the old C sound, it's the other C sound. And so but that is definitely going to be the misconception. And that's going to be that like epiphany that you see on their faces when I show them the C and I spell it out and they're like, oh, that doesn't say, that says, and I also will. That'll be a whole conversation that they're going to have with each other, and then we'll go to whole group, and then we'll have that conversation.
Awesome. I'm glad that you are already thinking of those misconceptions. And I'm sure that you will be able to address those in your lesson. Before, like you say, the cement gets dry and, they leave off with the wrong information. Let's see. As I observe your lesson, is there anything in particular you want me to, pay more attention to so that you can receive feedback?
I would think as I do, so what I do is I put them on the floor, and I will do this is when we go to our reading. I would like for you to observe me as they okay, so as I'm reading to them, there's gonna be a point where I read to them, and then we discuss certain words, and then they're gonna read individually. If you can, while I'm reading to them, just observe my classroom and their engagement, because the stories are about 15 minutes. They can be kind of long, 15-20 minutes with a story. And so if you can, I noticed that I have a few wigglers, and I I would love some advice on, things to do, because sometimes I have them to stand up or make noises, like based on like what is going on in the story, to kind of be aligned with the story. But I do notice that I have a few that are they get a little wiggly, and I do call on them, to try to reel them back in. But I would love some advice during my read alouds.
Yes, perfect. Okay, then I will most definitely, pay close attention to your read aloud and see what is it that we can do definitely to support you to make sure that all the students are following along, even though it might be a long story at times. What can we do to make sure that, they are engaged and that they don't distract, the rest of their classmates. So I'll definitely be in the lookout for that. Okay. Well, I think I pretty much have everything. Um, that I need. I look forward to seeing you later on this week to go ahead and,
Me too. Me
be
too.
in your classroom and see that wonderful lesson that I know that you have really planned out for.
Yeah.
And we'll meet again to go
Okay.
ahead and discuss and see how that went. Welcome back, Miss Davis.
Well, hi, Michelle. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you.
I've got to say that the way you handled those little 6-year-olds was truly amazing. I
You.
know it's a pretty big class,
Mhm.
so I know it can be tough at times. And you know what? You never showed, on your face that you were tired, that you were fed up,
Thank you
nothing,
so much.
That smile on your face stayed throughout, no matter what.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So I think that is amazing. Your energy is contagious. The students definitely, um, gravitate towards you on that. So I love it. It was really nice to see
Mhm.
the little kids, singing, and then, okay, let's stop. And now let's learn the dance and let's do the
Yes,
dance for this,
yes.
and then, of course, they had a little bit of downtime where they were able to, okay, here are
Mhm.
your leaves,
Mhm.
talk with your partners before
Ma'am.
we go to our branches and start pasting our leaves on our branches, right?
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
thought that was amazing how you were able to incorporate, a little bit of everything with the singing, the dancing, and then,
Mhm.
okay, let's go ahead and sit down and look at our letters, our words, and where are we going to place these
Yes, ma'am.
words. How did you feel? What do you think? How did your lesson turn out?
Overall, I think that, it was a positive lesson today. I mean, they were engaged during the whole group, and then they participated with their own responses. They were pretty enthusiastic. They most of them appeared pretty confident. I did notice I had about when I was walking around while they were doing their independent work, I did notice about I want to say a total of about 5 students that I really had to work with, um, because they did struggle a little bit with that concept. But it was the first day, and so I just made sure that to give them that feedback in real time so that they could make those corrections immediately. And I will just continue to work with them. I may even pull them in small groups. It's a little early right now to group because it was the first lesson. I think that I'll teach it again or do something similar related to that objective, and see if they pick it up a little better. And maybe put them in a group with some peers, really strong peers, or pair with them with their peers, and see if they could kind of learn off of each other. They, for some reason, my students, especially in this first block, they learn better from each other. I mean, they are so receptive when their
Mhm.
peers, they feel like their peers know, and their peers are so patient with them, and they just pick it up like that. So that's one of the strategies that I've been using too. So I think I'm going to try that with them. But for the most part, I think it went well.
I really agree with you as well. It did go well. And like you said, it's a little early to do interventions, right? With these with the students. So I would definitely, suggest try
Mhm.
pairing them up. And like you said, they love to learn from one another. So most definitely, get those five struggling students, even if you don't target all five at once, maybe target two or three at a time, pair them up with, your stronger students so that they can kind of review together, practice together. Hopefully, they'll pick it up now that they heard it from you, and they'll also hear it from their partners. So I
Yeah.
think that would be a wonderful start for that.
Okay.
That you kind of answered my question about what interventions you wanted to do. So I think
Mhm.
that was awesome. How did your instructional materials and visual supports that you had planned impacted your student learning? So how do you think all of that organizing and all that brainstorming you did ahead of time help?
It was to their advantage. I did several different word patterns on um, whiteboards, and I would put them in front of the students. And so I think it really helped because even when the way I write the word, let's say I have the word sun, S-U-N, I will write the word, majority of the word will be in a black marker, but the S I will highlight in a different color, right?
Hmm.
And so I think doing little bitty things like that really makes a difference. And I have the students write the same word in their little code book. So not only do I write it, they write it and they always have that word. And then, of course, I post it on the board on the word wall as well. And I just feel like all of that matters. The leaves, they
Hmm.
love, and we do
Yes.
that activity a lot with all word patterns. So it's just not, we have trees all in the classroom with
Hmm.
different letters, but that's their most favorite because they're discussing that little leaf with their friends and they're tracing the little leaf, the words on the leaf, and then they get to discuss which part of the branch this particular sound pattern goes on. I think that the things that I do, the strategies that I use, that the students are receptive to them and they look fun. The music, the dancing, the silly songs that we make just to encourage them to remember.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's working.
I really agree with you as well. I do think all the time that you're putting into this is really paying off. The students are really engaged with all the songs, with the dance moves, and like you said, they love to be tracing on the the leaves. And it's not them just tracing. Like you said, you can actually genuinely see that they are having a discussion on, no, it goes on this branch because,
Hmm.
and you'll hear them. It has the
Hmm.
sound at the beginning, it has the sound at
Yeah,
the end,
yeah.
or no, this is the new one. So you
Hmm.
hear them saying that. So they are, really understanding. They are paying attention, to the lesson. Tying that into when you did the read along, right?
Hmm.
Um, I did notice, like you said, there are a couple of students that are, they start to move around and everybody wants to see, okay, what's going on? Why are they moving? So I think maybe what we can try, and I know it might extend your lesson or something, but maybe chunk the read aloud. If the whole story takes about 15 minutes, then you know what, let's do half. Let's chunk it. Let's do half. Let's talk about it. Let's
That is
get
a
up
good
and move,
idea.
maybe go sit at a different spot or have them if they were sitting, for the second half, let's go ahead and stand up. Let's go ahead and move to this side. Let's go by the window this time.
Oh, that's such a
To
good
kind of
idea.
get that, oh, I'm tired of being here. Okay, let me get up, kind of, okay, they get to
Yeah,
move, shake it off, and then, okay, let's
that's
finish the second
brilliant.
half. And it might
I think
take a
that's a good
little
idea,
longer,
though.
5 extra minutes.
Yeah.
It might be worth it, those
Hmm.
5 extra minutes of transitioning from one spot to another or having them, share what they've caught on so far with the stories or whatnot, right? Um, Kind of to help with those students that, get tired, so that they don't get distracted. And also they
Yeah.
kind of if they did, doze off, okay, well now we're having a discussion, about what you just heard. So like, okay, okay, they're able to catch on. I think that could be a start. We can most definitely, try that out next time, see if it works. We can meet again, have that discussion. You know
I
what?
like that.
Yes, it
Yeah.
worked. No, it didn't work. I
Hmm.
just, spent time and I didn't
Yeah.
get through it. And we can build on that. I
Okay.
think that would be a good start, if you agree.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I actually know exactly when I can do that. Right before lunch, I can start that read aloud and do half of it. And then after lunch and recess, we come back, we review the little part that I had read, and then we can finish it. That's actually such a great idea. I love that. I will definitely
Yes,
use that. And I think that I already know in my mind that's probably going to make all the difference.
well, like I said, I want you to try it out. Let me know how it goes. If it did work, great, awesome. If it didn't, then we can go ahead and sit down again and have that conversation. Okay, it worked this way, but it still didn't
Hmm.
target this other
Hmm.
topic or this other issue. What can we do? All right, so we can definitely meet again and see how that works out. Is there anything else that you would want additional support in? I know we agreed on this. This is one area where we're going to work on together and see if it helps. But is there anything else?
Yes. Do you think that I could observe another teacher doing a read aloud?
Of course.
Okay. I just want to
Yes, we can
see, I
we
only
can
know how
definitely
I do
schedule
it,
that.
and I just want to see, what other teachers do to just because in that curriculum it just says read aloud,
Hmm.
and that's all we just
Very
read
broad.
it and show some like little pictures of what we're reading. But I'm just curious.
We most definitely can. We can talk about it in our next POC. And I'm sure your team is more than willing to, have you come and see them with the read aloud, or even there in POC, we can say, hey, so let's brainstorm on these read alouds. How is everybody doing it? What's your input? How's it working? What's not working? And we can all brainstorm together. But most definitely we can schedule so that you can go ahead and see other teachers while they're doing the read aloud. That would definitely help you come up with ideas. So I say we do that.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all really I have.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing from you again to see how it went, with the read alouds. And I will definitely stop by y'all's POC so that we can have those discussions and set up that schedule for you to do observations.
Awesome.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.